Yeah, it looks like he's trying to pressure the front. Most of the siege tanks are up in the third area and trying to run some goons in the mines. Not working because of siege tanks just splattering. What is he doing now?
What is he doing? I don't understand this game anymore.
Yeah, he's just running into the main base, trying to snipe off a tank as he gets in there.
Well, he is getting inside the main base. Man, you never see this.
Wow, I don't know what's going on here.
I feel like I'm in a parallel universe where Protoss can get away with this. Apparently, he managed to get inside of his opponent's base. Now, he could get a lot of SCVs, but it doesn't look like he's going to because he got hit by so many siege tanks. Really, the number of casualties that Terran faced in the middle of this attack doesn't compare to how behind Protoss is now. Terran could push in the mid-game, which you don't normally see on this map, but then again, you don't normally see players throw away all their Dragoons in a situation like this. You can see he's not really getting a lot of SCVs. No. And he's continuing to do this like these Dragoons are at discount prices back in his base.
You know, this is really bizarre. Alex threw away 3 or 4 goons right off and then gave the rest of his goons trying to run into the base. I don't know what he thought he was going to accomplish there. That would really only work in this circumstance if Super really, you know, panics and just kind of unsieges everything and gets really sloppy. You know, like arms flailing in the air, you know, 15-year-old awkward nerd style.
Yeah.
So I don't know what LX was really planning on there, but that has given Super this great lead. You know, he got his first expansion up quicker and his second expansion up quicker. He's killed a ton of units, and I can't see, you know, him really messing this up enough to lose from this point. It kind of seems to me like he can just mass up and kind of roll LX over here.
Very rarely do you see players who can just run into your base with a bunch of Dragoons and actually get away with it against players of this caliber. I think the people he probably trained against probably put all of their siege tanks and maybe all their siege tanks at the third base that's under construction, maybe 1 or 2 to just guard the other entrance. So maybe he just assumed that he would get in there and just take out an innumerable amount of SCVs, but that didn't happen. He lost so many Dragoons, and by the time he got up there, it was the SCVs that were kicking ass.
Yeah, you know, those SCVs surrounding the Dragoons up against the wall.
Right,
you know,
right.
You never want to put your Dragoons up against a wall like that.
Ever.
You don't want any units up against the wall. We saw that happen with Super last game on Destination. Put those tanks right up against the wall, had no room to micro back at all whatsoever, and just got crushed up against it. So, you know, you really need room behind your units so you can spread them out better, you can micro more correctly. So, you know, I don't know. It's a little bit sloppy play by both players in the series so far, but, you know, I think that kind of comes with the territory. This is very important. The winner of this best of 5 goes to the first ESWC ever for StarCraft in Korea. Big cash prizes. So, you know, there's a lot of pressure on him.
And, of course, on top of that, you get to see lovely Korea. I mean, that's really a dream for everybody that plays this game. You know, whether it is just going to one pro gaming match or even just walking around the streets of Seoul, going to Korea is just a very sought-after experience if you're a StarCraft player.
Indeed, and you get to meet the likes of Tasus and Artosis. You know,
those guys are amazing.
They are handsome and cool.
I have their autographs all over my wall. Does that make me weird?
No, it does not.
Okay.
I like you more because of it.
All right, good. Well, we see some vultures moving down here at the bottom left, and they're not going to spot too much of anything here. I think Legendary right now is still trying to figure out, okay, what do I do now? Because I'm behind in my unit count. Terran, it's pretty standard to push out when you have about 1 to 2 science vessels. So he's going to have the perfect stasises. I think Super knows all he has to do is split up his army. I think out of all the games we've seen, this is the one where I'd be the most concerned as the Protoss player. And that's talking about a game where he did a gateway on 7 outside of the Terran's main that failed.
Oh my God, look at that. 4 add-ons.
This guy and his add-ons.
You know, he has 3 gas really quick this game.
Yeah.
So, you know, I see what he's doing. You know, he wants a ton of siege tanks. A ton of siege tanks.
A ton of siege tanks.
But, you know, this isn't making too much sense overall because, you know, what is Alex going to do from here? He really kind of, you know, he has to tech up. It's obvious he's not going to be able to take a 4th base and keep it, especially against 4 add-on siege tanks. So, you know, he really should be, you know, focusing a little bit more gas on science vessels and upgrades.
Yeah, I think so. He's going to have to combat arbiters, not a large ground army. You could just see that apparently Super just really is comfortable with tanks. He wants to depend on the tanks. He likes to get, he's probably good at just positioning tanks, but he's going to have to be good at positioning tanks against stasis, which can be very difficult in the heat of the moment. That's pretty much what Protoss depends on, is getting about 5 tank stasis off one stasis shot and then just winning the game from there. However, what's even more interesting is that LX went for fast Templars, which to me also doesn't quite make as much sense considering the position he's in. I guess he assumed there was going to be a faster Terran push, but then what's really characteristic of Super, as we've seen so far, is that he's going to go for the tanks, not any speedy push.
And you see, now the Stargates have just been warped in, as we see. There we go. The Arbiter Tribunal just started out.
Right.
And, you know, did he just scan that?
I believe we just saw a scan.
All right, so if Super sees that it is just starting up now, all he has to do at this point, you know, there's no Arbiters to come recall on his base. There's no carriers that are going to be coming in. So what he has to do is a slow push. If he just slow pushes extremely strongly across this map, you know, spreads out his units enough so that he does not get side-stormed to death, LX is not going to be able to stop it. He has more units. He's going to have way more siege tanks than LX is going to be used to.
Right.
And so as long as he's very careful, very methodical about this, it is going to be something that is almost impossible for LX to stop without the threat of a recall.
No, I agree completely. And I mean, recall is out of the question right now since we're seeing the Arbiters come out here so late. All right, he's going to have to get into position. This is going to be tough for the Protoss. The angle that Super's coming at is superb. Look at the angling of those siege tanks.
Wow, he's just going to melt these Zealots. But the Zealots, a nice size storm on those siege tanks, a very nice size storms. And it looks like Alex may just pick off about half the units of Super here and then hopefully pull back. But no, he doesn't realize how many siege tanks are over there.
He has no idea because the observers were sniped, and that's exactly what Super wanted. However, I do believe Super expected to do more damage there. More tanks coming out of those factories, but actually I'm a little bit surprised at how much Super lost. I think he should have had more tanks in the group.
Yeah, you know, I think that his back group of tanks there maybe a little bit too spread out. They didn't get quite enough damage in. And here we go, almost pure Dragoon coming up with some size storms, and a bad size storm right there, but a nice second one. And the Dragoons pushing back the siege tanks, despite a huge amount of siege tanks from Super. Almost pure Dragoon pushing it back. Really nice arcing from LX here.
I have to say, these aren't the most perfect games we've seen played or even casted, but they are certainly some of the most entertaining ones. You know, you don't have to have two players making no mistakes to have two very entertaining players duking it out here. These guys are very high skilled, but they are certainly letting the advantage swing back and forth.
And you know what? Even the OSL champions, you know, Bisu was saying when he won, you know, just the trick is to make less mistakes than your opponent.
Right.
Because everyone, even the best player in the world, is going to make mistakes all game long. You just got to focus on making as few as possible. You know, we are seeing some mistakes here, but these two are really going at each other with all they have.
These are two Goliaths from their region of the world, and only one of these guys is going to come out on top. And take a look at this. Once again, Terran trying to get into position here, but you got to be careful when you're Terran right now because your army is starting to thin out. By the way, I also completely disagree with LX morphing the Templars into Archons.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing with those Archons.
What are these Archons going to do in this matchup?
Yeah, Archons are just going to evaporate to Vulture Fire, to Tank Fire, to Mind Splash. I don't know. There's no Mutalisks for Terran as far as I know.
As far as I can tell, there are no Zerglings that Terran can make right now. I think he did that in the heat of the moment, assuming that Terran was going to have more to follow that up with. And remember that there are no science vessels out yet, unless I'm missing any. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but
no.
I did not see a single one, which means that when Stasis comes in here or a recall, we haven't gotten a shot of the expansions for Terran too much, but I don't think there's a lot of turrets or even spider mines in place to defend against that. So LX is going to start getting the advantage here.
Yeah, he definitely could. And, you know, this is the failure of 4 add-ons. He could have several science vessels by now. You know, most standard Terran players will have 2 or 3 science vessels right now, EMP researched, and probably at least +2 attack. We see only 1-1 right now for Super. So, you know,